calling the select board meeting for June 20th, 2023 to order. We're here in Town Hall. We're also on Zoom remotely and on RCTV, on YouTube, and on channels 33 for Verizon customers and 22 for Comcast customers. And so just a brief overview of the agenda. We'll have public comment, and if people could, if anyone would like to speak in the room who hasn't yet signed up with the sign up sheet with Fidel, if you could please do that. Then we'll move on to select board liaison and town manager reports. We'll have a hearing on traffic amendments at Family Circle, Woodland Street, and Bancroft Avenue. Then we will discuss a hearing which looks to be requested to be continued to July 18th on the Meadowbrook alteration of premises liquor license. At 8:30, we'll discuss and vote on the fiscal year 24 water and sewer rates. Then at 8:45, we'll vote on the volunteer appointment selection committee recommendations to volunteer appointments on various boards and committees. We'll vote then on a letter of support for the park grant program and discuss future agenda items. And I believe we have 2 sets of meeting minutes to approve. And so I guess we'll start with public comment. If you could please come up and state your name and address and try to keep your public comments addressed to the chair and 2 minutes or less. So Ms. Zeke, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. My name is Kathy Zeke. I live at 8 Sanborn Street in the Postmark condos, where I'm chair of the Board of Trustees. I appreciate the attention, first of all, that our friends on the Select Board and our town manager have given to the emails from the Postmark Board and some residents urging them to reconsider the tiered water rate system in reg. Data from the Postmark describes the negative impact of the current proposal. Our building has 1 town water meter, so we'd be considered large water users. Our water bill would increase by an estimated 8.5%. Looking deeper though, 42 of our 50 families are either low-end or average users. If those families lived in single-family homes, they could expect a 6% decrease. That's quite a differential for those families, an 8.5% increase rather than a 6% decrease. Again, these data come from the Postmark. The other multifamily buildings in Reading, however, are in the same situation. Almost 20% of Reading's population currently lives in multifamily homes, a percentage that will only grow with the MBTA community's requirements. Many of these residents are low income or elderly and may be less able to absorb those cost increases. Billing families in multifamily homes at the top rate unfairly penalizes them. Crucially, this proposal fails to encourage water conservation. Those residents have little ability to affect their water rates by reducing their usage. The Postmark Board recognizes that Reading needs to adopt a tiered water billing plan, and we understand the complexities that come with that. We would welcome being a part of exploring an equitable system. In the meantime, we urge the Select Board to implement an interim alternative that fairly represents families' water usage or continue the current system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. John Sullivan, 8 Sanborn Street again, also a member of the Board of Trustees. As Kathy so eloquently told you, and as I spoke to last time, and I made the point, there's not 1 family per meter, and unfortunately in this town, we have been given 1 meter for 50 residential units, 3 commercial units, 1 of which is a restaurant. And that's going to be a big water user. We are going to be immediately high tier, and that's you're wanting a tiered thing. Wanting a tiered billing system is a great idea, but I came away from last time. You are not prepared to do it equitably, and I think you ought to consider the equity involved here. And I appreciate it if you would. Thank you.
Miss, is it Nancy Martinello?
Minicella,
Manicello?
I wasn't planning to speak,
Okay,
but I will if you want me to.
your call. And Greg from Family Circle, I'm sorry, I can't read the
Greg
last.
Zanias, I'm sorry for the scribbling. I appreciate, this is Sanborn, obviously Family Circle, I'm the 15 Family Circle. I appreciate your consideration on parking on one side up to the cul-de-sac. I don't know if there's any safety issues with the fire department bringing in vehicles into the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac is designed for safety vehicles to be able to make that turn if this car's parked there. Are they comfortable with being able to make that turn, because they've been there before for emergency situations and they've had to back out of the street. So I would like to see it I would appreciate everything you're considering. If it's possible to have it beyond the cul-de-sac towards, I think it's 24 Family Circle, I think would be better offer, better for the street, but again, I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Nikki Lawson? Lamson, sorry.
I'm Nikki Lamson, 88 Timberneck Drive, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 2. I'm here to follow up on the Memorial Park Salem Street crosswalk letter that I'd sent on June 2nd. Wanted to keep that on top of the list. I understand it was discussed at the prior meeting and wanted to get a status update. Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Briere?
Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Briere, 23 Family Circle. Similar to Greg, I want to appreciate your consideration of the parking restriction on Family Circle, and you provided the fire department is comfortable with the turning radius. We're comfortable with it as presented, but we wanted to make sure that you folks did get input from the fire department as to whether or not they're comfortable. But appreciate your consideration of it and speaking in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just
Yes.
quick question, so the folks who were speaking on Family Circle, if they wanted to, they could also speak during the hearing,
Okay,
right?
Yep.
Because there'll be a hearing, just so you know, you can also speak at that time.
Don't think it'll be much different, but
Understood.
okay, thank you. So seeing no other people in the room who look like they want to speak who haven't already, Caitlin, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to provide public comment?
No one online at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin. Okay, so moving on to select board liaison reports. Carla, we'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. So the Family and Friends Day that the Lions Club sponsored was, I think, well attended in general, as we had some rain, and towards the end of the event. But I think we all volunteered to staff our tent, and there was a lot of other volunteers there and town departments there, so that was another great event put on. I'm guessing the fireworks went off okay. I did not attend. And the Simon's Way Committee, we kind of shored up our criteria and then kind of ranked them. All 7 of us were there in person, and we all ranked our top 5 choices of, I think, the 13 or 14 that we kind of laid out. And we kind of went over that and just hashed that out, and there's some discussion about that. Nothing crazy, and then we just started to discuss about a potential RFI, and Angela gave us an update from the Recreation Committee that Jim Sullivan would like to have some input, or at least come speak at a meeting before we really dive deep into that. So we invited Jim and Jenna to our next meeting in July, and we'll go over the RFI in more detail, maybe not vote, but at least have a bigger discussion, and to have them included as the Recreation Director and Jenna as, I don't even know what the title is, Elder at Human Services. Yeah, so, and that was pretty much it for that meeting.
Okay, thanks, Carla. Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. The school committee ended up meeting last week and had the awards for all the various teachers for the 10 years, 20 years, et cetera, 30 years in this batch around. So it was good to see all the milestones that were hit for them. Like Carlo mentioned, the Friends and Family Day was great, well attended even with the rain. So it was good to see the large turnout with that. And then the Reading Memorial High School boys lacrosse team won their Division II state championship the other day. So congratulations to them. My daughter will be trying lacrosse for the first time in the future, so maybe we'll see that in a decade or however long it is. So. And that's all I got. Thanks. Oh, well, the vast stuff we'll go over. I mean, that was, 35-ish people of fun between you and I, Jackie, so we'll go over that then.
Thanks. Karen?
Great, thanks. Yeah, Family and Friends Day was terrific, even with the rain. I appreciate that staff was down there. I believe Andrew was down there. I said hi to him, but I understand he was out building support for MBTA communities, explaining to residents what that's all about. So that's really wonderful that he was able to do that. Attended the Library Board of Trustees. They have a landscaping subcommittee. And we received an inquiry about that project that town manager will follow up on. I was on Beacon Hill on the 12th, I think it was, for Realtor Day on the Hill. I was able to stop in and see Rep. Jones and just touch base with him and briefly, talk to him about the struggles we'll have with MBTA communities, given that we are a fully built out community. But he was happy to hear from Reading. And the Pride Festival on Saturday was fantastic, again, well done, and again, raining. And one more item, the Kellam School Building Committee is gonna be meeting tomorrow because there's been a bit of a zigzag in the process. And nothing really that we did or we could have done to avoid it. I will let Fidel get into the details, but I don't think it'll really slow the process down, but we are gonna need to meet on Wednesday, and I'll let the town manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Jackie. So just to add on to what Karen was saying on the Pride Day Pride Parade, the State Attorney General Andrea Campbell attended and made a very strong, supportive statement in terms of what's going on, which was fantastic. Senator Lewis was there, and it was great. Fidel was there and had a little proclamation to share, which was really nice, and it was a nice turnout. So that was really great. The Town Forest Committee met last week and had a very active discussion about regulations related to unleashed dogs in the town forest. It was mostly constructive, except for a few moments. And at the end of the meeting, the committee voted to support a change to the bylaw, which currently doesn't restrict the number of dogs per handler, unleashed dogs per handler. They voted to limit it to 2 dogs per handler and created a new definition of voice control so that it's clearer. It also set clear penalties for folks that don't comply with that. The next step is to take that to the bylaw committee, and then it'll come before us in terms of a warrant article and then to town meeting, assuming that it all stays on track. The one thing that they also talked about was that if there were other or better proposals that might come up, that the committee would be willing to entertain some of those ideas. So they voted to make the change, but they're willing to maybe consider other things depending on what's going on. Thanks, folks, for the new charter for Recalc. We're going to be meeting next week and get that kicked off, and then I'll report on that the following week. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Just some updates from the Trails Committee. They're working with Next Step Ministries. They are currently working through the summer, or at least through, I think, the end of next month on trail restoration and maintenance. They're currently at Pinevale. And the Myatt Soames Morgan project, which, as many of you know, has received federal and state grant funding, is underway, or I think will be underway this week. And so the estimate is hopefully done by year end 2023, and also addressing some of the standing water issues at the Lowell Street Trail entrance. In terms of Board of Health, they reorganized. Dr. Richard Lopez is still the chair, Carrie Donnell is the vice chair, and they reported that we as a town have accomplished all of our Metropolitan Area Planning Council recommended improvement plan goals. I guess MAPC has kind of a model public health set of policies that our Board of Health used to review our resources. So that was good news. I believe actually the state legislature today heard our home rule petition, or had a hearing on our home rule petition to increase the number of Board of Health members from, was it 5 to 7, 3 to 5, yeah, to allow for more than one, to allow for at least a couple of Board of Health members to talk to each other. I know they're hearing our home rule petition on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund next week. Just a couple more things. I know we'll go over VASC appointments a little later, but the appointment committee also interviewed existing and new members for the bylaw and finance committee last week. And Jason Clark was reappointed. He served for 4 years, and we have new members of the bylaw committee, Jen Hillary and Jared Beliveau. And then on the finance committee, the appointment committee reappointed Marianne Downing and Mark Zero. And then we appointed new members, Endri Kume, and who you may remember as our former treasurer, now works elsewhere, but still lives in town and wanted to serve, and John Sullivan as new members of the Finance Committee. So congratulations to them. At CPDC, as Karen mentioned, they are working on MBTA communities. Specifically, staff is planning some events throughout the summer to kind of explain what the state law requires and what it requires of us here in town. They're also creating a survey, and they're working with the Zoning Board of Appeals on the McDonald's redesign, which would be, at least in terms of its current proposal, a non-conforming use. And just a heads up for this weekend, Saturday is Porch Fest again across town. So thank you to all the volunteers and hosts for the musicians and artists. And then we also have the Juneteenth Freedom Festival on the town common. So looking forward to that and hoping for good weather. So with that, Fidel, do you have a town manager's report, please?
Thank you very much. Yes, so just to start off that on Saturday, it is going to be a very exciting day. So Porch Fest is happening from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. And on our website, there is a link to a story map that has a location basically of all the sites that are happening around town. At the same time, in the town common, we're going to have our Juneteenth celebration that is happening from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to have some live music, some food trucks, and a couple of food vendors. We're really excited. We're hoping that the weather cooperates more this weekend than the previous 2 weekends, and we invite everyone to join all of the events. They're very much complementary, and we have definitely done a collaborative organizing effort with Porch Fest and Juneteenth. As Select Board Member Herrick pointed out, we hit a bit of a snag with the Killam School Building Committee. We had come to an agreement with our first selected firm. Their name is Turva. Unfortunately, we couldn't come to a contract with them, and at the request of the MSBA, we are meeting tomorrow night at 6 p.m. And we're asking the committee to vote for the second firm, essentially that was previously picked, which is Colliers. They're an international firm. We feel really confident that they are going to deliver on this project. I also wanted to point out that on Monday at 6 p.m. We are having project update on the Auburn street water tank. It is on Zoom, and there's a flyer on our website and on Facebook. So if you're interested in learning about the project on the timeline and asking questions, please come to the hearing. And finally, we are having a finance committee meeting on Wednesday, June 28th. It is the last meeting of the year, and basically hoping to present a preview of how the year's finances are wrapping up to the finance committee. And finally, I know that we've been talking a lot about the construction tracker. Our town engineer is gonna come to the select board at our next meeting on July 18th, and we'll do a memo on the construction tracker. I'll share with the select board ahead of our meeting, and we'll put it also on our website, but it is something that we have been working on for some time. It is obviously not perfect, but we feel that it is ready for prime time.
Madam Chair, could I just add on, I just wanted to make clear to everybody watching at the select board that Fidel successfully came to negotiations with our first choice Tarva. We did receive a withdrawal, not only instructions from MSBA, but also a withdrawal from that firm. So I don't want it to, as I said, it was not that we didn't get what we needed to do to completion. So good job on that, thank you.
And just a question, has that committee already decided and finalized with Colliers?
That is what we're doing tomorrow.
Okay,
Tomorrow at 6 p.m.
okay, great. Alright. Any other questions for Fidel? Yes.
If I could, so to Ms. Lamson's point, can we put this issue first in front of PTTTF? But I think the real concern was that where we have state roads, how do we enlist state support? And we also talked about Main Street down by, help me out. Matera, thank you. As another state's, it requires state support to do anything. And the question is, okay, what's the process? How do we do it? How do we get some attention paid to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and on the crosswalk by Memorial Park, we are also going to approach town meeting in the fall and request funding, because that is we want to do it right. We would like to hire an engineering firm to actually look at it and design it. It's a little bit it's nuanced because there is a lot of traffic on that road, and we want to make sure that we're improving the safety and not installing something that will ultimately reduce safety of people.
Thank you.
Okay, so the hearing is for 7:30. Do we need to wait 5 minutes?
Nope.
before?
It
Okay,
is posted for 7.
oh, 7, okay, all right, so Madam Secretary, could you read the hearing notice, please?
Okay, to the inhabitants of the town of Reading, please take notice that the select board of the town of Reading will hold a public hearing on June 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. or later in the select board meeting room at Town Hall, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. We're also available remotely on Zoom to act on proposed changes to the following traffic and parking regulations. Amendment number 2023-6, parking shall be prohibited on Family Circle along the entire westerly side starting at Grove Street to the beginning of the cul-de-sac. Amendment number 2023-7, parking shall be prohibited at the end of the northeasterly dead-end section of Woodland Street. Amendment number 2023-8, parking shall be prohibited on Bancroft Avenue along the entire westerly side starting at Hartshorn, the end of Bancroft Avenue. Amendment number 2023-9, resident permit stickers and compost center stickers can be purchased on the Town of Reading website or at the Reading Police Station during their posted business hours. These stickers allow residents access to resident and commuter permit parking spaces and access to the compost center. A copy of the proposed documents regarding this topic will be in the select board packet on the website at www.readingmass.gov. All interested parties are invited to attend the hearing in person or remotely via Zoom, or may submit their comments in writing or by email prior to 6 p.m. on June 20th, 2023 to townmanager@ci.reading.ma.us by order of Fidel Maltez, Town Manager. Thank you.
Good evening.
So these amendments came through with, other than the last one, which was more of a housekeeping amendment. These came through resident complaints, concerns and complaints. The first one, I believe, is the Family Circle. So the Family Circle is a small cul-de-sac down off of Grove Street, across from Stroud Ave. That area has changed quite a bit since the treatment plant is closed down. And the town forest is being utilized as, positive things, trails and dog walkers and such. So the parking down there is kind of exploded. Family Circle, residents on Family Circle are concerned because they're parking on both sides of the street down there. It's a very narrow roadway. We went down and took a look at it, and there was parking on both sides of the street. It was pretty difficult to get the police cruiser through, and taking out the bigger trucks, the fire trucks, on the public safety side, but there is kind of a concern. So we'd like to have public safety as well as the the residents. It makes sense to have one side no parking on that cul-de-sac. There's, I believe, 4 residents down there. We picked the northerly side because 2 of the residents are on that side, and the other side is kind of clearer. There's just bushes and stuff, so that's why we kind of chose the northern side no parking. It was just kind of a 50-50 shot, and we just kind of looked at the area. So, and if you wanted to maybe jump on the street view and just take a look at kind of where we're thinking about down there. So on that right side, the right side is the southerly side, where all the bushes and everything are. And on the left side, there's driveways. And like I said, there's a couple residents on the left side, the northerly side. So that's why we chose that side to, and that's kind of the side that they were more concerned about. So that's kind of where that came up.
Sorry.
For the brown. So it's kind of where we're at. And you can see it's pretty narrow. Putting vehicles on both sides of that roadway is pretty tight down there. And there is gonna be some improvements. I think they're looking at putting a lot in down there somewhere. So a lot of the vehicles will hopefully be off of the roadway at some point. So I think we're just kind of getting ahead of it here with the no parking and helping out the residents. And also with public safety. So that's kind of what we have. Any questions on that one?
So, the residents asked if, or I believe you asked, if this was going to help, fire trucks having the ability to turn around. I took the liberty of texting our fire chief, and he confirmed absolutely. This goes through our parking, traffic, transportation task force, PTCDF, right? Yeah, and our fire department sits on it, and this was recommended through our fire department as well.
Yeah, I have a question of this. Should we take them as they come up? Just ask questions relative to them, is that all right?
Sure.
What is the estimated time frame for that parking lot? Because the reason residents are parking all over Family Circle is because, I think you stated it, of the heavy use of the town forest.
Sure.
So if we prohibit them from parking here, they're just gonna cause a problem for somewhere else. Ballpark?
Yeah, so
spot.
the permitting process took a lot longer than we imagined, and the restrictions on the permitting process make it so that it's not work that we can do in-house. So we have the project fully designed. It is ready to go out to bid. It is our intention to go out to bid sometime this early fall, I'll say. However, we don't have enough funding to actually build it because of the timing of the earmark. Essentially, if you recall, we received an earmark from the state of $150,000, but because it came as an earmark, it had to be closed out at the end of the year. So it closed out to free cash. We are going to approach a town meeting in the fall, and we'll ask for funds to build the parking lot. So I guess to answer your question, I would expect that construction will start in the fall.
All right, so in between now and then, are there plans for when folks can't park there, where are they gonna go? It's, the whole reason we're doing this lot is, well, primarily it's safety, but there's other benefits as well.
I think, just kind of going back when the treatment plant closed down, things kind of got ahead of themselves a little bit. I mean, it's great that everybody's utilizing the town forest, but I think it's been going on for such a long time. We're just trying to, that now that there is going to be a parking lot, we're just trying to get a hold of it down there and trying to get the no parking. And obviously the residents are concerned, and, it's a very tight roadway. So even though they're going to have to, they should find some other place to park, because we're just concerned about, we want to get an ambulance in there, we want to get a fire truck in there. I mean, it's very narrow. So the parking lot is on the horizon, and we'd like to see this, as soon as it's approved this evening. We probably put out the work orders this week and get the signage down there, within the next couple of weeks. I think it's paramount for the public safety than to wait for the parking lot. But that parking lot is coming.
We have to get it approved by town meeting again. So that's always fun.
It's out of my hands.
And one of those lots is now being developed on Grove. Have you received any additional complaints? Because it could be potentially for
For the what?
in addition to the lot that the town owns, there's 4 buildable lots. One of them is under construction. I don't know if you've received any complaints yet with construction vehicles or parking, because sort of, we know if those are built out and all those driveways get into place, you're gonna lose parking there as well, so, alright. I certainly understand why the residents are asking for help. Thanks. Okay, did you?
Well, you can go, if you had a question.
Oh, no, I know, go ahead.
Alright. I guess, Fidel, do we know how much the parking lot is going to cost?
I do not know how much it's going to cost. We received an engineer's estimate of $175,000, but until we bid it out, we won't know how much it's going to cost. And that is happening in the early fall.
So if we received 150, sorta kinda.
Yep, we did.
I just don't know why we're just waiting. I guess, I know town meeting has to approve the money, but I don't know, to everyone else's point, I'd like to see it sooner rather than later. Because I'm not voting, but the money was already ascribed to it, so I don't see how that isn't successful, so. Especially with what's gonna happen from this, it's just gonna become worse. So whatever you can do to expedite that, so when town meeting hopefully says yes, they're knocking stuff down the next day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yep.
And then the Foster Circle that I see over here as well, are they gonna become the new parking area for everybody?
It's hard to say. I think people want to park as close as they can, so I don't know, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's,
Was that looked at all? Because it looks.
That's a wider road, we haven't had
that-
any concerns about that. It's a little bit further down Grove Street. Obviously, Family Circle's directly across from the entrance.
Yeah.
So that's, probably why people are parking there, they wanna get right up to as close to the entrance as they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, just kind of addressing that right now, and
Yeah, I would just say, just keep an eye on that because they might be used to it. I don't know. I don't live over there. So perhaps they're full all the time too.
it's growing, it's expanding, and a lot of people are using the town forest, and it's a great thing, we just need to kind of handle on it and move forward and take that as it comes. So it could be on the horizon, it might not be. We'll see.
Thank you.
Next item?
So the next one is Woodland Street. Woodland Street's crosses, I guess, John Carver. Half of it's on one side of John Carver and the other half is on the other side. The area where we're concerned is the dead end section, which backs up to the Birch Meadow Park area. We've had some complaints down on the end of that street that people are parking there, and then there's some pathways that are just sneaking over to the Birch Meadow. It backs up to Morton Field, the high school baseball field. And there's a driveway, the resident right at the end of the roadway, just having some difficulties getting in and out of their driveway. People are just kind of using the area, parking straight on at the end of the roadway, and we like to move them out of there. This is kind of going hand in hand with the next amendment as well. But we'd like to put some no parking right at the end of the street and not have people, heading parking anymore down there, because it's just causing a lot of congestion and a lot of headaches for that resident. It's kind of,
Any questions or comments? I know from running by there, that's a very short street, so I think even from turning around, there's not much
it's very narrow.
room. Yeah,
It's very tight down there.
yes.
It makes sense that, like I said, that their driveway, the last residence, you can't really see it, but their driveway is pretty much right down at the end of that road.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's kind of gonna be disrespectful to the resident just parking down there.
Oh, the driveway isn't that, it's actually at the end?
Exactly.
Oh, 'cause-
On the right, on the right.
Because it looks like it's right here. I'm
Right.
like, oh, well, I can kind of see it.
Right, I did the same thing, and then I took a ride down, and I'm like, oh, God, this is down the end here.
Yeah.
So, it makes perfect sense, and they just shouldn't be parking down there, there's so many other places to go.
Right?
Questions on that?
No other questions on Woodland? We'll move on to Bancroft Avenue.
So Bancroft, similar, the very end of Bancroft is, what's the Birch Meadow Park. You live down at the end of Bancroft and you see this gigantic park, and people are gonna utilize it. But the very end of Bancroft has been a real challenge for the residents, and it's been a real challenge for public safety. We've had a lot of enforcement down there with the existing regulations. A lot of people come from out of town to utilize that park, and there's so many different parks down there. Right in front of the tennis courts, I believe there's about 32 spaces, angle parking on the right there.
Yeah.
Or nose-in parking, I should say. So on the left side, the 4 residents down there, it becomes a real challenge to them. This area just gets flooded with people. The parking in front of the house, the parking on the end lawn. We've had people double park down the end, blocking some fire hydrant. People park behind each other. We've had to, track down people in the field to move them out of the gate. You go all the way down the end. And this is over time. This is over years of dealing with this. And you can see it's pretty narrow, so if that fills up on the right, and then there's parking all along the left here next to these driveways.
They're getting out.
Getting all the way down the end, and people getting out, walking all over their lawns and everything, so it becomes very, very congested. And the residents are looking for a permanent solution, and we are too. So we're kind of on the same page. And also, kind of like the town forest, the Birch Meadow area is under construction. And the
Imagination Station lot is gonna be reconstructed. And we're gonna have a whole bunch of new parking in there. It's a must for it. But it's pretty exciting because it's gonna be, I don't know, we have 30+ parking spaces, it's gonna be ADA compliant, it's gonna be well lit. It's gonna be something we can utilize, and all of the park is gonna have new walkways that are gonna be lit, ADA compliant, so people can get out to these parks. And we would like to take the people, especially that come from out of town, move them away from the residents along here and put them over on the Birch Meadow area. Let them park in the Imagination Station lot, which is under construction. You know, with the end of the school year right now, we have all the summer. And then before, you know, the school starts to kick off in the fall. So again, we'd like to get ahead of this and have no parking on the left side of the street there. Basically from Hartshorn to the end. And, you know, and there's, the residents, you know, if they have guests or anything, there's plenty of parking on the right-hand side that's not always utilized, but there are certain times that it does fill up, which causes, like I said, issues. But they're pretty satisfied with what we had to say about it, and from an enforcement standpoint, we'd be happy with it too, because it could be difficult to get emergency vehicles down there at times, especially something out on the field. And we've, like I said, down the end of this road, people are parked behind each other. You know, whether or not they're, you know, coaches from the same team or what have you, but, you know, double parking, and it's just, it could be a real nightmare. So we'd like to keep it open as much as we can. And like I said, with the new construction going on, I think it's a good time to jump on it. That's kind of where we're at with that.
Okay. Great. Any questions or comments on Bancroft?
Yes.
Carla?
So is it proposed, no parking at all or during certain times?
No parking.
No parking.
Because we would have to make up an amendment,
Yeah, okay,
a separate amendment if we wanted to do like specific time frame.
right, okay.
But they were pretty happy with the no parking, and, you know, there's kind of it's just, you know, kind of a permanent solution.
Yeah. No, I've seen it jammed up down there a lot,
Yeah.
playing tennis, yeah.
It's a little messy down there. And, you know, by rights, and people are just coming down to, you know, to go to the games, you know, and they're like a lot of people coming from out of town, and, you know, they're just parking all over the place, and they're just trying to come down and see the game. But we'd like to, like I said, with the new construction and pushing people, we're gonna have a whole new parking lot, which is gonna be great. And off of that parking lot, there's gonna, like I said, walkways and stuff, so I think that'll be better use of that area instead of just causing problems down here.
And Fidel, could you remind us, please, the time frame for the completion of that parking lot?
I wanna make sure that I speak, no, I'm kidding. Everything will be done by October, for sure. The issue is segueing, if you will. It's two separate contractors. One contractor is doing the parking lot, and another contractor is doing the restroom pavilion. We are hoping to push the parking lot contractor as quickly as possible before school starts, but we don't want them to do final paving until the building is done, because obviously they still got to mobilize and move trucks around. So most likely what is going to happen is the parking lot will be 95% finished, right? We'll do a binder course, well, basically rough paving, but final paving of the parking lot and striping and prettying up won't happen until the pavilion is done. So all fully done by October.
Thank you.
Weather permitting,
Yeah.
no delays, all kinds of caveats.
And then it looks like the last amendment is relating to permit and compost stickers.
Yeah, it's more of like a housekeeping kind of thing that we just wanted to change some of the language, and we're just going through the amendments and just trying to keep everything updated, and because I was here this evening, and just put it on the agenda and your thoughts on it. We don't have access to this, 24 hours at the police station. We just wanted to let you know that we're doing some language change on this. It's okay.
Yes,
So just to clarify, because I had kind of the same question, so the change here is, I believe, it used to say, these stickers are available at the Reading Police Station, 15 Union Street, but anytime, day or night.
That's right.
And so the change is to say, it's actually Monday through Thursday, business hours, or online. Having tried to go once, I know this well.
Tried to write it as best I could, I know, cross outs and.
midnight run for a sticker. Okay, all right, makes sense. Okay, any questions for Officer Skelton? Thank you. Thanks.
You.
And before we go to any additional comments from the board members, any members of the public who would like to speak on any of these
Greg
amendments?
Zani again on 15 Family Circle. I'd like just to submit these photos for the record so that you go review them and do what you want with them, so.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean Briere, 23 Family Circle, and just to get it on the record at the actual hearing, speaking in favor of the restriction, as proposed, we think it makes sense on the side of the road that it is proposed on. Frankly, you get more parking spaces on the other side of the road without having the 3 driveways breaking up. We did have a situation a couple of months back where emergency vehicles did need to access the street. It wasn't present at the time, but I understand they were able to access it, but it took some maneuvering, so I think this restriction would help that. And just, one point of clarification is I think it came up, there's no additional lots being built out at Family Circle. The construction that's there right now is just my house, but it's redoing the house that was there originally. There's no additional houses being.
It's Grove Street I was referring to.
Oh, sorry, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. So if there's no other public comment, can we close the public hearing?
Move to close the hearing regarding the traffic amendments.
Thank you, Karen. Do we have a second? Thank you, Chris. Okay, and we voting on closing the public hearing? Yeah, all those in favor? Okay, opposed, 5-0 to close the public hearing. Close on these photos. Public hearing is closed. And so now any further discussion by board members on these amendments?
Officer Skelton, one more thing. So I'm just wondering, so you're a member of the PTTTF. So I know of some cul-de-sacs, I think Fox Run Lane has a no parking in the cul-de-sac. Is that a street by street decision and cause yeah, here's this specifically on Family Circle, we were not gonna put those restrictions, I think I heard the resident and that's how it reads that. So here's a picture with cars parked down there, but we're not gonna restrict it. But there are other streets in town where we do restrict parking in traffic circles,
So
and there are
specific-
signs posted.
Yeah, so specifically Fox Run Lane, just for that particular road, that backs up to the Woodend School. So the residents down there, it becomes a problem with cars parking down there for any type of events at the schools. And that cul-de-sac was getting just flooded with parking, kind of a different animal to what Family Circle is here. So yes, it is a case by case basis, and that's kind of why that circle, just specifically that circle, doesn't have the parking in it. I think there's a path right there and stuff, so, for Fox.
There's no other questions or comments? Are we ready for a vote?
Okay, move to approve parking and traffic regulations amendment number 2023-6 as presented.
Second.
So Karen and Mark, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, 5-0.
Move to approve parking and traffic regulations amendment number 2023-7 as presented.
Okay, is there a second? Thanks, Mark. All those in favor? Opposed, 5-0.
Move to approve parking and traffic regulations amendment number 2023-8 as presented.
Okay, second?
Second.
Thanks, Mark. All those in favor? Opposed? 5-0.
Move to approve parking and traffic regulations amendment number 2023-9 as presented.
Thanks, Karen. Is there a second? Thank you, Mark. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, 5-0. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, to discuss and vote on the Meadowbrook alteration of premise liquor license. Looks like we had a revision at the request of the applicant to continue the item until our next meeting on July 18th. Fidel, any other notes or comments on that?
So the Meadowbrook reached out to their lawyer and I believe they are meeting with the resident that came to your last meeting. And I believe they are trying to work on a solution that is amicable to both parties. Obviously, we are not involved in those conversations. We also asked Meadowbrook to confirm and triple check with the alcohol board control, with the alcohol control board, to confirm that the permits were correctly filed. It's a little nuanced because what we learned is that with an alteration of premises permit, we believe that the sites have to be linked with a path, and in this case, they are linked with a parking lot. So it's a little nuanced, but to ensure that the process was 100% correct, we also asked the lawyers of Meadowbrook to confirm 100% that the application was correct.
Okay, thank you. So we'll to be continued until our next meeting.
And I have a motion. Move to continue the liquor license alteration of premises application for Meadowbrook Golf Club to July 18th, 2023.
Thanks, Karen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mark. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, 4-0. So move the item until July 18th. Next item, discussion and vote on fiscal year 2024 water and sewer rates. So we've had a long road to get to this point, and I think a lot of public input, and I think learned a lot along the way about kind of the nature of water rate setting, how other communities are addressing these issues, and a lot of good debate and discussion about how to balance affordability and conservation, but to do so in a way that is not too much of a shock to the systems and to the budgets of average households. And so just before we discuss, I'd like to say I do realize that we are trying to manage cost increases here and trying to do so in a way that addresses these issues and does it in a way that's fair. I think after a lot of discussion, I see that the tiers are, in my view, a good way to start on the path toward conservation and toward affordability. I do acknowledge the fact that the discussion from some of our residents in multifamily dwellings, which again is one public comment mentioned is about 20% and growing, are in a different situation, in a unique situation, such that the some of the incentives are a little different than what they would be for the majority. I think that we need to spend some time thinking about how to address some of the affordability issues for the low-income residents and those kinds of households. But I think at the end of the day, implementation of some sort of modest set of tiers tonight would be a good start with town manager and town staff working on some affordability implementation issues for when we do this again next year. So I'll just say I'm in favor of the May 23rd compressed tiers tonight. With that, we'll open it up for other comment from board members. Mark.
Thanks, Jackie. I think you said it very well. I think that we should move to tiers. It is an imperfect tool, and we know we have some issues we need to work through, and I think directing town staff to look into it. And I think specifically where affordability was one of our goals, we need to really look at it particularly closely on that aspect of it. I think that the May 23rd proposal is a really good start down this road. Understood that it's not perfect, but it seems to address most of the concerns. It will work out, arrange for more conservation orientation for 70+% of our people receiving bills, which I think is a great start. And I think this is the right way to go. I'm comfortable with the May 23rd proposal.
Thank you. Others? Karen?
Just question first, for as far as the motion goes, I'm not sure I have numbers that match what's in our packet. So I just wanna make sure I read them correctly when we get to that point, and you know, I tend to agree with the both of you, and I do appreciate the input and excellent suggestions that we've already received from some residents about how we can not only move to the tiered rates as we're required to, but also institute some peripheral mechanisms around it to make it fair and equitable. And I remain committed to that. And 20% of our population is not insignificant, for sure. And so I would also agree with you. I'd be happy to support the May 23rd proposal as in our packet tonight.
One order, you're next.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Jackie. For me, it's been the same tune the entire time. It's not changing. There's nothing fair and equitable about sticking the tier 4 and tier 5 people in a 5 and 10% bracket like this. Especially after hearing from the residents of Postmark, amongst other things. I made the argument right in the beginning when we started this for all the other nursing home facilities, et cetera, getting hung up in the tier 5 rate scenario. These buildings are gonna get stuck in the same thing. It's, for me, I understand it's great to take care of 80% of the population like we mentioned, but for me, I'm not here for 80% of the population. I'm here for 100% of the population for something that's gonna make sense for all of Reading. This makes no sense for all of Reading whatsoever. We can make it make sense to modify some numbers in here, but on no planet am I voting for 5 and 10% increases on tier 4 and tier 5, even though they're the 20% of Reading for the most part. I've already brought up the second water meters, beaten it to death. It seems as if nobody wants to entertain that offer of just having for us to not be billed for something that we're actually not using. That also makes no sense to me. You will never be able to rationalize that to me for something that you're being charged for what you're not using. Makes no sense. In terms of conservation, I keep hearing it tossed around that this is all about conservation, conservation this, conservation that. We just had 2 people speak up about how they're gonna be in tier 5. They're not gonna be conserving. They have zero incentive to do anything at all in that. And they're a huge, obviously, 50 people in a building is a significant number. These rates here do nothing for conservation. And I read it before, and I'll include it in the packet this time because I'm actually reading it verbatim rather than myself. About the MWRA's report in 2018. So I'll briefly go over it because it's 11 pages, but I'm only going over like 4 sentences. So in 2018, they completed a master plan, and if you actually look into the MWRA facility, they've spent like billions of dollars on out west as well as the one in Boston. They put the money in to make sure that we don't end up hosed in any of these scenarios. So as part of the effort, staff documented supply and demand characteristics of the system to confirm that 300 million gallons per day safe yield of the MWRA water system is sufficient to meet future demand for water within the service area and additional demand outside the service area as may be approved. Staff used the following conservative demand planning scenario to arrive at this conclusion. Continuation of the current base demand in the existing MWRA service area of approximately 203 millions of gallons per day based on a 5-year average demand. Projected increased demand from the population and employment growth through 2040 within the existing MWRA service area of 29 millions of gallons per day, and an allowance for the potential of an additional demand for the MWRA water from partially served communities of 17 million gallons per day. The conservative planning scenario represents a potential future demand of 249 millions of gallons per day, well below the system safe yield of 300 millions of gallons per day. To me, the MWRA outlined in their report, regardless of what we do, because in Reading, the water use is only going to go up. We are never going down because we are just building more and more buildings. People are using more and more water. That's the way it goes. So it's in their own report about, I understand, as I explained previously, for me, I have all low flow toilets, washing machine, the whole spiel. I took advantage of every rebate that the town was giving me. You will never get me to conserve 1 ounce of water more than I'm already conserving. At the prior meeting, I brought up that my sprinkler system was only on one time in June. And that is still the same to June 20th. So 20 days in June, my sprinkler was on once. So if you were driving by and saw someone's sprinkler on in the last 3-4 weeks, they're not conserving because they didn't have a smart controller that would know how much the ground is saturated, et cetera. So how do you get somebody like me to conserve water in Reading based on these tiers at all? You don't. I'm already doing it. You're not going to get me to change because it's going up 3%, 5%, 10%. I already said I'm in tier 3, so mine's going up 3%, which is the tiers that I wanted. It was 2, 9, 3, and 3, 1, and then we go ahead and just have a water committee created. There's too many questions that need answers. From my sprinkler thing, Karen gave some rebate stuff earlier today. All the Postmark, all these other buildings, all getting hosed and on the 5th tier. None of that is right, and yet we're still doing it. I don't see why we are. My thing is for the 3 tiers, so we're in compliance, 2, 9, 3, and 3, 1. It sounds like that's not going to happen. So it's the whole point of conserving. And I'm one of the key people that you want to get to actually conserve because I have a sprinkler, which, you're penalizing people with additional families when you could just take out a 600-gallon user all in one fell swoop, and it does not seem to matter. We're pigeonholing on the 80% of Reading instead of 100. We can fix it, have a committee, like I said, formed. I'm not about kicking things down the road because, believe me, I want everything done sooner rather than later. But there are too many unanswered questions. And for us to continue on this, I'm not for. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Chris. Carla?
All right, thank you. I don't want to rehash everything I've said over the past several months, but I think as much work as we did, as much work as Fidel did, it would have been better served by a committee or extra meetings dedicated to this. This is my 4th vote on this. I would really love for it to be unanimous. This affects everybody in town. I really would be disappointed in a 3-2 vote on this. like Chris said, 100%. Are we gonna always get 100%? No. But this, what we're doing affects 100% of the population and the businesses that don't use our services, schools. So I would rather, again, I don't wanna wait. We've negotiated in years past over how much reserves to use and how to lower the single rate. So I would love to keep it single rate and really get down to the nitty gritty. It was nice that, what Karen sent today, I didn't have time to review it all, but we've been playing catch up. We get an email, Fidel gives us a presentation. We get a new one of these. We have 3 of these, plus Mark's, which is not in this, which is 4 of these, all right? To me, that tells me something, all right? I fully support what the Zeeks and Mr. Sullivan have said. Let's, stick a pin in it, do it the right way. And I have nothing against tiered rates at all, but I would never support this. 5 and 10%, 6 and 10%. It's just not equitable. People like Bill Brown are gonna go from 3-minute showers to 20-minute showers, and it's not gonna move the needle at all for people like that. So I'm fully support conservation. I don't have a lawn, but I have a little bit of a garden. There's 5 of us home right now in the summertime. I got 2 in college, and my water bill hasn't changed. With 5 in the house and the store underneath us, with 3 of us in the house and the store underneath us, my bill has pretty much stayed within $25 to $40 every quarter. So, what am I going to do differently? Someone like me, right? A lot of families fluctuate in size when they have college-age kids. So, I really would like a 5-0 vote from us. This is very important. I know we could just start it this year, readjust it next year. Let's start something. But I will not support this May 23rd proposal at all. I think it's a bad look for us as a board. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Carla. So I do think that the approach of either some sort of committee or maybe, some work by town staff on, a combination of kind of retrofitting matters, but especially kind of looking at what we can do to encourage multifamily unit developers and owners and HOAs, not only to incorporate sub-meters, which I know raises cost, but paired with some sort of income-based assistance would be good things for us to not wait until like March or April of next year to do, but to maybe get an update on like in the fall. But again, I think this is a start. I wouldn't say it's a great start, but it is a start on the path toward the steps that I think we need for conservation and affordability for the majority of residents, and let's try to up that majority with the actions that we take in the next year. So with that, do we have a motion?
Okay. And I apologize before, so we have in our packet, there are 5 tiers. The motions just reflect that tiers 1 and 2 are similar, so that's why I only have 4.
I don't understand.
So the motions that I have, this.
So in the PowerPoint.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
In the PowerPoint, if you recall, the big change with the May 23rd proposal was that tier 1 and tier 2s were combined. And basically it scrunched down.
0 to 1,000 is
Yeah.
what I was missing.
Yep.
Not understanding.
Okay,
So
got
it just says it's 0 to 1,000 as opposed to 0 to 500 and 501 to 1,000.
So does that mean that the A under each bullet of the first 2 bullet points, would represent tiers 1 and 2?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That was my
On
misunderstanding.
both, on the water and sewer.
Okay, so yeah, we have motions. I can read them. Can we do a so moved? Right there.
I have a question. This has the rates, but it doesn't have the percentages.
It doesn't have to, we just have to set the rates.
Yeah, this is the mode that we.
We just need to set the rates.
True.
Is
But-
there a way to look at them side by side so that we can see the rates around the percentages? Is that? Yeah, it's in your packet. Or are you?
Yeah, I am not gonna support this, and for our chair to say it's not a great start, and then we're gonna vote for this, is the exact opposite of what we should be doing, So I really can't believe we're gonna do this, after someone says, this is not a great start, but, you know, let's pass, the, whatever that Obamacare thing was, you know, let's read it later, you know, it was this thing,
So-
let's read it later.
So Carlo, just to clarify, when I mean it's not a great start, we have difficult decisions to make here. And I believe that the tiers are the right move to make today. I understand that, you know, folks may disagree with that. But what I mean by that is not we, you know, will understand it later. I think we do understand with that tiered chart what this means for the average homeowner or for the average resident. And I think if anything, the multiple discussions have given us a pretty fulsome and robust view of how people view this and how people see this. So just to clarify, I think a lot of what we do is choosing among hard choices that, you know, make someone unhappy. And but I also think the overall goals of affordability and conservation and, oh, by the way, compliance with state law, even though we've, you know, talked about kind of the practical aspect of that, are make it worthwhile for the tiers.
Okay, well, I can just read the first one, we can do the first one. Move to set the FY 2024 water rate at the following rates. A, $10.75 per 100 cubic feet with usage between 0 and 1,000 cubic feet. B, $11.70 per 100 cubic feet with usage between 1,001 and 2,501 cubic feet. C, $12 per 100 cubic feet with usage between 2,501 and 4,000 cubic feet.
There's a typo in there.
To 2,502, or, yeah, okay. As amended, 2,500, yes, okay. As amended, it's good. Okay, and then D, $12.50 per 100 cubic feet with usage between 4,001 and above cubic feet. And E, a minimum quarterly bill of $22.82 effective with the December 2023 billing.
Are we taking water and sewer separately or together?
You've voted on everything,
Yeah.
Sure. Move to set the FY 2024 sewer rate at the following rates. A, $10.20 per 100 cubic feet with usage between 0 and 1,000 cubic feet. B, $11.15 per 100 cubic feet with usage between 1,001 and 2,500 cubic feet. C, $11.50 per 100 cubic feet with usage between 2,501 and 4,000 cubic feet. And D, $12 per 100 cubic feet with usage between 4,001 and above cubic feet. E, minimum quarterly bill of $22.82 effective with the December 2023 billing. And move to set the FY 2024 storm water rate at $60 per unit, 3,210 square feet per year to be billed quarterly effective with the December 2023 billing.
Thanks, Karen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. All those in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion? Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Jackie. I vehemently oppose all of this, as I've said before. I do not think this is fully baked, half-baked, and tomorrow we're gonna get another email and something else that's gonna change based off something else that we didn't know. For us to be continuing down this path without forming a committee or something like Wakefield that we seem to base everything off, except they have a committee, to be able to review the ins and outs of everything, where it's it's equitable for all of Reading, 80% of Reading, forgetting the 20%, because they're the 20%, so they don't have to conserve apparently at this point. I strongly disagree with all of this. I don't know why we are continuing down this path. I know we have to make tough decisions, we have to live with them, wrong, right, et cetera, but there were so many questions, and we are still continuing. It makes no sense to me, and I'm vehemently opposed to it and voting no.
Thanks, Chris. Any others? Mark?
Thanks, Jackie. So just a couple of things. I think that if we chase for the 100% solution, we and every other community will never reach it. It's not possible. It requires a tough decision. You mentioned Wakefield. They have a structure that actually is fairly similar to ours for good or for bad. The couple of things that are important here also. One is that if we weren't going to do tiers, everybody would still be facing a 4% increase. I think that kind of disappears somehow. There is an increase coming, right? It's either 4% for everybody or it's going to get put into tiers. So I think the tier solution does change things a little bit. You can see what it looks like. It does accomplish one of the goals that we stated we had, which was a bit more affordability, particularly for smaller users still in homes. Is it taking care of 100%? As we said, no, it needs some work for our community, and we have to figure out what that is. But I think trying to kind of stop and not do anything, now we're not accomplishing anything of what we were trying to do. And I think that that's not the right way to go forward. Again, I'm very uncomfortable looking for the 100% solution, because that's a decision to do nothing, and I'm not okay with that. I'm not going to go in that direction. I think we're doing something that is reasonable. We have compressed some of the tiers. It's accomplishing much of what we wanted, and not all, and it needs some help, which we've talked about how to accomplish that. So I'm comfortable taking that forward. One other point on just the issue of people, now they can take longer showers or whatever. No matter what, you pay for your water. You may not pay a higher rate per cubic foot, but you still pay for your water. So if you decide to take longer showers, your bill's gonna go up. It's not an issue of it's not gonna go up. It's going up. Thank you.
Carla?
Thanks, yeah, usually, you're right, obviously, that's not my point. My point is that some of you have been just drilling the conservation angle, so that was kind of my counter to that, and what Bill's counter was to that, was the conservation angle, right? Fully support conservation, fully support odd days, this, whatever, but usually, so we had all these, it's not up there now, we usually have these, so we have the May 9th, May 23rd, June 6th, we have all these, and so we picked one. So we picked, someone started to go, I'm supporting May 23rd. But there was no, like, most of you know how Chris and I felt all along. This is nothing new. So there was no dialogue to try to compromise from either side of this issue of, well, let's tweak it to 1050, let's tweak this to, it was like, I'm supporting what's in front of me, May 23rd, it's easy, it makes sense, that's it. In years past, we've had compromise on how much reserves to use, what the rate should be, looking down the road. That didn't happen. I know this is pretty and it's prepared and it's nice and it makes it easy. I get it. But, I know this is just one vote of many that we've done in the past and going forward, but I'm kind of disappointed that this is not a 5-0 vote. That's the point I'm trying to get across. I think these votes should be 5-0. It's not a political vote. It's not a partisan vote. It's about the whole town on water and sewer. So I just want to say that for the record, that I'm kind of disappointed in all of us, myself included, that we couldn't come to a compromise either on the tiers or let's put a pin in it. And, I know we waited till the last possible minute to vote on this because there was so much discussion. And to me, that wasn't a good process. When we talk about process, that wasn't a good process. Years past, 2 meetings that were done. This is new, I get it, but spent a lot of time on it, and I think we're just voting for the sake of voting on it. That's just my opinion. So I'm gonna vote no, obviously, and we can take the vote.
Okay, so I'd just like to say that I, again, agree that these are difficult decisions, and I don't know that, I don't think my support for the tiered rates is based on kind of a, pretty or sort of a feeling like check done. I think my vote on this is because I know last year when we voted on tiered rates and it only took us, or when we voted on rates rather, and it only took us a meeting or two, there was some discussion about the need for tiered rates for compliance with state law, that we would maybe want to consider it from conservation and affordability. I do think we're taking a step in the right direction. It's a first step. And I view this as something that we need to come back to. Again, not waiting until next spring when this issue comes before us again on the agenda, but some real work in the second half of this calendar year on the affordability, on the multifamily issues. So with that, I will call for a vote. So can I have a motion to?
We already have that and a second.
Okay, and a second. Okay, so can I have a vote? Those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. And those opposed? Okay, we are 3-2. Thank you. Okay, next item, voting on the VASC recommendations to volunteer appointments on various boards. So,
Madam Moderator, can I just have a brief comment?
yes,
Thank you. Obviously, I'm not particularly happy, but I hear intentions of next year. And I don't hear actual steps. And I want to be sure that those good intentions are real and that we're gonna see progress. A commitment from all of you.
My
Thank
second
you.
meeting saying I'm committing to that.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Go ahead.
Sorry, and I just wanted to share that the multifamily question is it's a big question. Prior to the last meeting, I made an extra effort to canvass all the communities around us, and I did not find one community that has found an answer to that question yet. I mentioned at the last meeting that I'm completing a program at Harvard, and in that program is the Commissioner of Public Works for Cambridge. Cambridge obviously has a lot more multifamily housing than we do. We took a deep dive in the program in terms of how to fix this issue. It's just it's complicated and it is it's more cumbersome because it's not as easy as take a reading, issue a bill. There's a lot more process involved, a lot more cross-checking, and a lot more software development involved. So I will say that it is something that I definitely will continue to look into. It is not something that has been figured out, to my knowledge anyway, by the people. I will also say that there's other tools that we have discussed. We talked about a low income discount. That is something that some communities have done, and another tool is a senior discount that some communities have done as well. But there are tools that we could continue to look at in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I understand it's a complicated issue. We have mostly elderly, and we have 20% affordable. So that would be a good start. And then you're gonna have, all your new building is gonna be 20% affordable, I'm sure. So
I'd like to say they're all gonna be individually metered. That's what I'd like to say.
I would love to, we would love that we are individually metered, they're not the town's meters. So this creates we try to bill our residents by their usage. We've got to figure out how to do a tiered structure, and it's gonna be complicated, I understand. So, but I just wanna know that this board is committed to improving this solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, voting on VASC recommendations to volunteer appointments on various boards. So Chris and I are still the two members of the VASC for the select board. We interviewed just over 40 people over the past 2.5 weeks. I won't speak for Chris, but I was really encouraged and heartened by so many people with records of service, new people who want to serve, who want to get involved. It's hard to pick out some highlights, but I think it's also hard to top Sally Hoyt, who, if we appoint her as constable, will be starting in her 51st year in the position, which is awesome, and not her only volunteer position. I think anyone who has who maybe finds some angst or some frustration with some of the goings on in local government and local politics, I recommend you go to YouTube and even watch, 10 or 20 minutes of these interviews, because it's encouraging just to see the volunteerism and the willingness to serve. So, Chris? Yeah.
Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, for me, it's the same thing that Jackie had mentioned. From not interviewing everybody like we did last time around, and then this time around to interviewing, it definitely is a complete night and day difference. Getting to know people, just hearing. My main questions were, what have you enjoyed most on the committee? What are you the most proud of, et cetera? And a lot of people were giving the same answers that have been there for 10 years or 5 years or whatever. I know the Mellet Soames or the bridge that they ended up building and all that were big ones for some of the people on there. It's refreshing to see, even for me, and it's probably not good for me to say it, but I'll say it anyway because that's who I am, is that one of the people that we interviewed, who I know does not like me, I would say was one of the strongest interviews out of all of them. And it's good to see that, we can put things aside and I can still come out there and just say that it was incredible by pretty much everybody on there. It's just seeing, I know Sal is the first one on the list. He was in uniform, like he's a control officer somewhere else, and now he's on the control committee here, even though they don't meet that much. Just so many, I could just go down the whole list. Obviously, I'm not going to take all night, but just seeing just the ins and outs of why everyone was doing what they're doing. And then the other one from that Jackie and I interviewed way back was from Connecticut, and he was moving to Reading and was already looking in, and now he's going to be potentially appointed to an associate on CPDC, which is obviously one of the biggest boards and committees time-wise in Reading. But he worked on stuff in Air or whatever, Air, right?
Avon, Connecticut.
Avon, Connecticut.
Yeah. Planning board.
It's the same thing,
Yeah.
Jordan's Furniture and Avon. But just seeing even people that are moving from Connecticut to here are already looking to get involved. A lot of individuals were wanting to go for a bunch of different boards and committees. And I think Jackie and I made accommodations for everybody, right? Like, we didn't not vote for somebody for something. We even put Linda Connors earlier today, from historical commission to historic district commission, even though she didn't apply for it. She had the interest, so we were able to accommodate essentially everybody. So it's a renewed faith in Reading. I know all the boards and committees aren't going to be full. They never will be. Possibly. I'm very thankful that we did it this way, and I know it's Jackie and I's final term until maybe some loophole, 2 or 3 years, whatever, but it should be done this way in the future. So.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. And I will say, we still have plenty of vacancies, as Chris mentioned. I don't want to call out anything in particular, but definitely go to the town website. We were able to, with these appointments, in some cases, get certain boards close to or at capacity, which is great, especially for boards like the Council on Aging and the Recreation Committee, which are very busy. But there's lots of opportunities still. So, yes.
As much as you said you don't want to call any out, I would like to call out.
Yeah.
ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, there are two associate openings, and it is a very, very important group. It'd be great to get some people coming into town or already in town to wanna volunteer and get onto that one. I'd also said Council on Aging has a few openings still, I believe, for associates. So there are plenty of opportunities, and it's great to see more people volunteering. I think it's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that the process was good to kind of interview the people that wanted to re-up. We talked about that last year. I think it's exactly as Chris said, it's a great opportunity to meet folks and really kind of understand some of what's going on here. So thumbs up.
Yeah, and thank you to Caitlin and Jackie. They scheduled it very densely and kept us right on track and on the fly with a lot of, we had a lot of kind of audible requests for updates and background info, and they were great. So we appreciate it. So do we have a motion?
Can I borrow that back?
Just, sorry, I wrote on the top.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Excuse me, how are we doing this? I'd like to pull a few, I know sometimes we do like a consent form, but I'd like to pull a few out and we'll vote on them separately.
Okay, so should we go through, because we've got numerous boards and committees,
It's just one committee, so it's easy.
Okay, so which one is it?
The Recreation Committee.
Okay, so why don't we discuss that? Do you wanna let us know what you're,
Okay,
yeah.
sure. So we have two line items for Recreation Committee. We have Angela Binda and Richard Hand, I guess, reappointed for full members. And then, three. And then we have Peter Lydecker as a full member, the Rotary Committee. And then we have, full member, that was the opening that they had. And then Eric Bamer and Kevin Lee as associate members. So I am totally okay with Peter Lydecker remaining the full member. I would like to have either Eric Bamer or Kevin Lee as a full member to replace Angela Binda. And my vote would be to have Angela Binda not on this committee at all. That would be my vote. So Richard Hand staying a full member, who's already on the board. Peter Lydecker, who wanted to be a full member, that remains the same. And then Eric Bamer or Kevin Lee as a full member to replace Angela.
I think we missed one. You didn't have a comment on the last appointment to the rec committee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ben Green?
What page is that? Sorry.
Is the fourth one.
What page? First page or second page?
Second page.
Second page?
It's on screen.
Oh, Ben, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm okay with that one. Ben Reams, associate member. Yep, sorry. I missed that one.
Okay, so it looks like we're then separate. Yeah, we're separating the Recreation Committee vote from all the other votes, unless any other board members want to take any of these individual appointments separately. Okay, so discussion on the recreation, and I'll just note that I believe Chris and I voted for, just for the record, Chris and I voted for Angela Binda and Richard Hand to retain their spots as full, or to renew them both, Angela Binda and Richard Hand as full members of the Recreation Committee, and Peter Lydecker as the additional vacant full member. So any discussion on Carlo's proposal? Yes.
I feel I need to speak up also. So I think for the most part, we've done a really good job kind of keeping this clean, even when we have disagreements on people. I know that, Carlo, you and Angela got into it on a few occasions on a few things. I think we need to work through those kinds of things. I don't know that there is a behavior that would warrant someone not being reappointed. I guess I'm just gonna say that, and I would not agree with your recommendation on the change.
Further discussion? Yep, Karen.
yeah, I echo some of your comments, and I was at, the recreation meeting when, maybe some things that, upset you were said. And, my comment is that they were not personal in nature, they were directed at actions. And the recreation committee listened to it, and I know it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me to be there. But I don't think it warrants keeping Ms. Binda off the committee.
Right, any other comments? Okay, so let us vote on the recreation committee motions as written.
Second? That works. That sounds like it would work.
Okay, so I'm moving to approve the recreation committee appointments as recommended by the VASC.
Second.
So just recreation right now?
Just for recreation committee, correct. And further discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I get where Mark and Karen is coming from. That was a recent thing. And whether we agree or disagree, it was politically motivated. I guess that's what, it depends what seat you sat in, right before the election. But it's not just that. It's, even more recent than that. And again, I know we're not supposed to allow to talk about social media, but when we're on boards and committees, I think we're, have to have a level of decorum and maybe act a little bit differently in our private life. Maybe not, right? But there's certain things that, Angela said in social media that really aren't warranted, don't get apologized for, and just the post gets taken down. So that's one recent thing, and probably others, but something happened very recently that I'm not going to get into because it's going to be debated. And then I'll go back several years when Angela Binda found, only Angela Binda found the Confederate flag in the town forest and basically lit the town on fire again right before an election. So it's things like that that give me pause that she shouldn't be on a board or committee. It's not just what happened with me. It's happened to other people, private and elected officials. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from what happened to me. I'm an elected official. I'm in public. I can take it, right? I'm not afraid of it. But there's never any apologies. There's never any trying to discuss it. Threatens of lawsuits against me. I mean, it's just it's crazy talk, a lot of it. So that's where I stand. What Karen and Mark said is partly true, but there's more to it than that. So I have never encountered another board or committee member who acts like Angela Binda on a board or committee. I've been doing this for over 3 years now and paying attention for a long time before that, and I just haven't seen it. So that's why I'm trying to take this out, so my vote on the record is, recorded correctly instead of a consent for everybody. So, did we already second this?
Yeah.
All right, so that was my discussion, and then, we'll go to the vote, I guess.
Yes, Karen.
So I just wanted to address the Confederate flag. I realize because of open meeting law, this relates to behavior. Because of open meeting law, we can't all speak to each other. What happened with the Confederate flag is a resident came to me, and I was working with the town manager at the time and the Reading Police to go and find it and take it down. And then this resident was out there telling folks, like, you won't believe what's in the town forest, and then we couldn't find it. So I just want to let you know that that's an unfair characterization of what happened on social media, if you didn't know that before.
Wasn't the resident Angela Binda?
No.
Who posted it?
Yeah, but that was the picture that another resident took, who was very upset about this happening.
Okay, but who tried to light the town on fire is my point.
So, okay.
we can agree to disagree, that's fine. Okay, I have no problem with that.
Mark?
So, I think we need to be very careful here. As it relates to specifically to Angela, I think that she's contributed an immense amount to this town as a volunteer. And it's hard to kind of listen to someone assassinating that, so I'm gonna respond directly to that as kind of a starting point. I wish that people who were involved in town had more limited profiles or more limited activity they did on social media. You know my opinion on it. But that's not up to me, in terms of what people do with that. It would be great if it calmed down. I don't know that that's in the cards for a while or ever. It is what it is. I wish that we would set examples for one another and kind of follow that way. I think that would be really helpful. I think when things get inflamed, they tend to get even more inflamed before they calm down. And I'm sad. I thought things here had calmed down, but clearly they haven't. So, and I'm not casting an aspersion, by the way. I wish that if the volume is high again, I wish that the volume would come down a bit. We can't control that completely, but I'm not comfortable kind of saying, well, hey, this person is not, representing the town right, et cetera. That's under our control. We need to be leaders to kind of help guide that, but how we do it is important. And we in particular, as select board members, I think have a real responsibility of leadership that way. And I think that we can all do better always, and trying to figure out how to do that is great. But I'm not comfortable with a character assassination or kind of pulling this out specific to this vote.
Okay, so by that, do you mean you?
So I am going to support the motion to follow the best recommendation here for the record.
Okay. So, yes, Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. I think the big picture here is after the interview with Angela as well as everybody else, we made the appointments for the rec committee. And I made it the point to say that, her longtime service is justified and warranted for why she should be getting that position. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the, it would be very difficult. I don't want to rehash last year with the appointments and all that, but it's along the same lines that people are, we're not going to say no to Sally Hoyt to anything. She's been doing stuff for 50 years. It's more of that, if Sally Hoyt wants to be on CPDC, she's going on to CPDC at this point. Like, she's put the time in. I think it more comes down to what I brought up multiple times, probably now the third or fourth time, is that we as select board members, like you said, Mark, have to be good role models, et cetera. But we have to create a code of conduct, like I've said 2-3 times, based off letters to the editor and all these other things that come in, accusations, lots of words that can cost people employment. So I'm a big proponent of free speech. You can say whatever you want, but that does not mean that there's not freedom from consequences for what you might say. So my thing with all of this would be that we should really be looking at a code of conduct for the select board that all other boards and committees will follow going down the road. Something that we will agree to, that if everyone else wants to stay where they are or whatever, also have to agree to it. And if not, there's actions that can be taken going that way. But, just because we were elected doesn't mean that we're not exempt from certain things. We all bite our tongue all the time. We've probably done it 20 times already since we walked in this room. We have to be realistic. So whatever we're willing to put out there, then, everybody else should follow. And if not, that is the point where then, it's on us to go ahead and take action. So I would just like to see in the future that we really look into this, because in order to take things down the right path, like you mentioned, Mark, we have to lead by example. And, we can still do whatever we want at any time, then what are we really doing? You know what I mean? There's a certain decorum, I understand, but like, just something has to be done, you know, it'll be better for everybody.
Can I, one last comment, and I'll, so, to Mark is truly blessed as far as social media goes, right? He is truly blessed, right? Since I've known him, he probably hears things, right? But talk about constraint and how not to go on the rant or RPN and hit send. That takes a lot of restraint, okay? So I have that restraint. I have never attacked anybody in public on social media.
Karen.
I'm speaking, yeah, thanks. So I have never attacked anybody on social media in public. Have I attacked them in public or defended myself? Yes, but I don't go on the rant, the Reading Parents Network, and get on a thread and start going crazy. Because I know what that's gonna turn out to be. So for myself, I understand that. A lot of people do engage, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I try at all costs not to engage. And if there's something to be discussed, we do it here, or we do it on another committee that it's related to. So, yes, we have to kind of set an example. And, you know, I do my best. None of us are perfect. We make mistakes. We have bad votes. We have this gate, that gate, that gate. We try to, you know, catch up on all the gates. Hopefully no more gates, but I'm sure there'll be another gate, right? Town Forest Gate, Dog Park Gate. There'll be something else coming, right? So we have to act as best as we can in public and for me in private as best we can, right? There's times when we lose our head, say things we regret. Hopefully we apologize. I'm pretty confident you guys would agree. I've apologized for my mistakes, right? So that's what I think we should do. So, you know, I'm glad we're taking this out so I can get my vote on the record, and then we'll move on. You know, that's what we do. I don't want to, belabor this, but let's vote on this, and we'll vote on everybody else.
And so just to close this out, I am even more encouraged after this discussion that our boards and committees and commissions don't meet on social media, and actually for the most part, except for kind of notices to the public for things like closed trails, have a pretty limited social media presence and do their work the old-fashioned way, including on Zoom, but, you know, talking person to person. And I know that doesn't solve disagreements, and it's not gonna solve disagreements on our board or other boards, but I encourage, and I think we do see a lot of good examples across all of our, I think, 26 or so boards and committees of people working it out the old-fashioned way, neighbor to neighbor, volunteer to volunteer. I hope very much for the same on the Recreation Committee. So with that, do we have a vote on the Recreation Committee recommendations of the VASC as presented? All those in favor? Opposed? And we're 4-1. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the remainder of the boards, committees, and commissions. Do we need to, I think, read through all of these, or?
I can't really think of it another way to do this.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. You ready?
Excuse me, can't we
Does anybody
start,
need to take
can't
a
we
5-minute
start
break?
it and then,
But it's not in the packet is the issue,
oh,
so.
oh.
Because we
Can't
just
see
voted
as
on it this
presented
morning.
on the screen, or no, does that not count? If he puts it up, it omits the rec committee as presented.
I already voted on rec committee about, this is a lot of reading, but.
I know. How many times?
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Has everyone had a chance to read through all of them now?
I did.
And we can do a revised packet.
I have to give you my thing I read anyway. Water thing.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, so I move to vote on the VASC recommendations as presented and dispense with the reading,
All right.
or unless you wanna.
I thought we just said we don't wanna do that. We need to read it.
Yeah.
So all of us.
I think Chair's call.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make the call that we dispense with the reading of all of the VAST committee recommendations. Recreation Committee is already removed, and it looks like Chris second, thank you. So all those in favor of the VAST recommendations as presented? Opposed, we're 5-0. So congratulations to all of our new and returning volunteers. Something really important. I think for the first time, we have on a recording Town Council's open meeting law and public documents or public records training. I know that's something that in the past was difficult to find. I know when I became a town meeting member, so I'm glad that we're making some strides in making that a little more easily accessible. So I'd like to have staff, when they send out the congratulations and the appointments, to have a link to that training and any relevant deadlines, because I think the state maybe has a yearly deadline for that training, and for us to certify to Laura Gem that we've completed it.
Yeah, and there's a document too that the volunteers sign. I'll send a copy of that. I was checking with Caitlin to see if she had a copy of it, but we don't have it handy. I'm not sure if it's 100% a code of conduct, but I'll send a copy of that to the board.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Jackie. And maybe the RCTV video to the recording under the VASC section on the town's website. I know that omits probably FinCom and Select Board or whatever, but still, like, it takes the majority of the board. Sure. You know what I mean? So not the link to the video, just embed it, so it's even more, likely someone would click on it.
I think I know
If you can do that, yes. You sure?
I think no. I'll talk to you offline. Yeah.
That's correct. Embed it. That's E-M-B-E-D.
Gotcha. Embed.
It's not the player for the
Is that a basketball player?
76ers. No. Embed.
Okay. Great, thank you, and congrats again to the volunteers. All right, next item is to vote on a letter of support for the park grant program. Fidel?
Thank you. I'm gonna pull up the packet. So give me 1 second. So we last year we were scrambling to apply for a park grant, PARC grant. It is a grant from the Commonwealth. And it is a $500,000 grant. It is a competitive grant, and we haven't. Reading has never applied for it. It is. We couldn't get it done in time last year, and we are hoping to get it done in time this year. In order to apply, there's a few caveats from the state. One of the caveats is that we need to identify a project. So we can't apply for just general funds. We need to identify a project. The other caveat is that we need to permanently restrict the land that project is associated with as recreation land. So if effectively, like conservation land, it becomes limited to what we can do with it in the future. It's got to be within recreation. So our staff has been looking at this for some time. What we feel like is close in terms of an application is the playground at Birch Meadow, the courts, so basketball courts. Initially, the master plan had these basketball courts set at pickleball courts, but just given the controversy, what we did is around pickleball noise, we actually have a proposal to basically move the pickleball courts closer to the field house, and I'll send that proposal out to the select board. What this will mean being essentially is that we would be applying from the state to redo the playground that is at Birch Meadow, close to the tennis courts, and to redo the basketball courts. Luckily, we have received a few phone calls since the posting of this agenda. One particularly from one resident abutting that would like to donate some funds towards this initiative. They haven't shared exactly how much, but it does sound significant. And actually, one of the members of the athletic community, Carl McFadden, has also expressed a desire to provide some donations as well. We are also including the reconstruction of the backstops and the bleacher area as part of the baseball field as shown, and a reconstruction of the parking lot that's behind the Rice area, which would increase also the number of parking spots. So a few benefits that are in this process. This is a competitive grant. It is for $500,000. The school committee has a letter of support as well, and we are hoping that we can get both signed. The grant is due on July 15th. The letter of support is in the packet, and I just want to highlight that a lot of this work for the grant was done by Ben Cares, Jenna Fiorente, Joe Huggins, and Ryan Percival. So these grants are definitely a lot of work to bring to the end, and these past 6 months in particular, we have tried to chase as many grants as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Carla?
Thanks. I know it's not here, you mentioned the field house, but where in relation to the field house would the pickleball courts go?
So it is not here because this is the scope of the but it's like, if you recall, the master plan showed prior version of the master plan showed the basketball courts kind of like in this area here. If you give me a second, I'll pull it up.
Because, were pickleball courts phase 2 or phase 3? I forget.
Pickleball course was going to be phase 2.
Phase 2, okay.
In that location that
Right.
that we're showing right now.
We're showing right now, right, and now, because of all the noise complaints and everything, that's been determined not a great spot.
That's right.
So where in relation to the field house, because you have the parking lot next to the field house.
Give me 1 second, I'll pull it up.
Right.
Yep, here it is. Sorry, just lining it up. So we have been hustling to get the grant application, so we haven't quite redone the area, but this is the initial proposal for the Birch Meadow Master Plan.
The original. Well,
original
but the one that was presented.
The one that was presented.
Right.
So the idea was that the basketball courts would be opposite to the field house, so not impacting the parking lot on the other side of the parking lot.
I got you.
So what we are hearing is a lot of concerns from the resident of putting pickleball closer to the houses. So what our proposal is to basically swap it. So essentially and we have the basketball courts fully drawn in, as shown in the previous picture.
Yeah.
But the idea is to put the pickleballs here, more away from the houses and closer to the field house,
Right.
which we're hoping people don't complain.
Okay, it's still 8 lit? Still?
So Activitas was the architect. We gave them a hard deadline for the grant application. They are working on that next.
Okay.
But as you can see, I mean, it's depending on how you lay it out. We have some area. There is some gut, fear of teachers complaining about noise, from the high school, but hopefully that's not something that we encounter. Obviously, and it would be more from like this area of the field. This is the cafeteria area, right? So certainly I don't think we're going to get complaints of noise from the field house, but something that we are going to have to engage the school department on is on this area.
I'm more concerned with parking. The noise in that location, just FYI.
Yeah.
Parking's gonna be 8 courts, 8 times 6 is 48 people at a minimum.
We weren't creating parking with the previous version. if you
That was a
recall, right?
problem too, that was a problem too.
Sure,
That was a
100%.
problem. That wasn't thought out, right, that was a problem.
I understand.
It's not tennis, it's, even though it's doubles, it's really you assign 6 people to a court, not 4. Cause it's round robin play. So there could, not many people carpool to pickleball, so it's 48 cars. And then when one session ends, another session starts, you have that. Anyway,
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, we feel, and this was presented to the Recreation Committee, and we felt better about hearing noise complaints if we put the pickleball courts closer to the field house.
oh, I fully agree.
We didn't talk about-
I fully agree with that.
Fidel, just to clarify, those pickleball courts are not part of this grant,
Those pickleball courts are not part of the grant.
but they are part of phase 2. So can you explain the difference? Because
Yeah.
I'm seeing that you're applying for phase 2, but it's like partial phase 2?
Partial phase 2, that's right. So the I think it's a question of how much it costs ultimately, right? We don't have a hard estimate, and in this climate, it's really hard to put up an estimate right now.
Okay.
Right, so we are applying for a $500,000 grant. We have $2 million in the FY25 capital plan. We feel very confident that we're gonna get this done if we get the grant for this. Can we do more? That's what we're gonna try to hash out between now and then.
And when will decisions be out on this grant?
So we are expecting decisions early fall, so September, October. We're really pushing the grant administrators to get us a decision before fall town meeting.
Okay.
And if the grant is received, it's a 2-year grant.
Okay.
But it's a competitive grant. But it's not guaranteed that we're gonna get the grant.
Okay, other questions from board members? Karen?
No, this is terrific. As you mentioned, it's been out there for a while. We've never applied for it, so.
Others?
Correcting that.
Chris?
So everything in that screenshot is what's gonna be, is part of phase 2, so redoing the playground, even though it's there already to begin with?
Redoing the playground, so the playground isn't poor shape, I'll say. It's not unsafe, but it can be upgraded. We are in the letter. Our focus is to make it an accessible playground. So there's two examples in particular, which I'll share to the board that we're really using as benchmark. One is the Tom Menino, right? Playground, which is just really focus on making it an accessible playground. And that could be, a few $100,000.
I mean, the layout here looks great and whatnot. I like seeing all the pathways and all that, so hopefully we get it.
Okay. There's no further discussion. So are we moving to approve the support letter for the parkland acquisition and recreation for communities grant application?
Right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, we're 5-0 and we'll pass it along for signature. So thank you to staff for preparing this. So next is future agenda items, which I have, thank you, starting way down on page
105.
105, thanks, Chris. And so we only have one meeting in July, and so we have continued the, sorry, I'm losing my place here. Continued the Meadowbrook request. We'll have a presentation on PTTF again, Officer Scouton on various traffic requests. I know I've seen a few just even within the past couple of weeks, and hopefully we can also maybe get some more information on the Miss Lamson's request regarding the crosswalk at Memorial Park and potentially some insight from Officer Scouten and the task force on the Matera cabin. It sounds like both of those also have wrinkles with state roads. So we will also discuss a special committee for charter review. That town charter update is due next spring, I believe. We're aiming to have that ready for town meeting in the spring. If I'm,
Is it
or no.
spring of 25?
So spring of '24 was my understanding.
Is there?
Sorry, say that again?
When is the charter review to be done? Is that spring of 24, 25?
So the charter review has to be completed by 2024. Sorry, give me 1 second. So the charter was last reviewed in 2014. On January 5th, 2015, town meeting authorized the select board to submit changes to legislature. So it was officially voted by town meeting on January 5th, 2015. But it was the process last was done in 2014. We expect it to be a robust and lengthy process.
Got it. So starting now means months of discussion.
Yeah, and it sounds like also, you know, at least in the previous iteration was an appointment of a committee. So we should plan to discuss that. Okay, we'll get a presentation from Victor, the assessor, on fiscal year '25 tax rates. We'll get an update from Autumn Hendrickson, a local a young person, RMHS alumni, who's doing some really incredible research on Reading and North Reading veterans, I think from World War II. She spoke at a number of the Memorial Day services. We want to discuss the dog park. We realize that's an aggressive agenda for or aggressive timeline rather, for the Stanton Foundation funds. And we meet twice in August. We've got that Lot 5 easement on the meeting after next on August 1st. Any other agenda items that folks would like to add? Karen?
We had talked at our last meeting about discussing the process for looking at the CPA, adopting the CPA. I think we discussed it might be not make it in July, potentially you should get it into August.
Right, other items?
Just the discussed dog park, I think we probably should make that more specific than just discuss. And probably have the possibility of developing a charter and forming a committee and voting on a committee.
Yeah.
Just to have that level of detail, because if we decide to move forward, we gotta move forward fast.
Okay. So it would be discussion of dog park or a dog park committee or other.
Yeah, including charter and
Yeah.
vote on formation.
Yeah.
That's probably enough material to work with.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, it gets to the steps that we would need if we're going to act on this, at least in its current form as we heard about at the last meeting. Any other?
So would somebody be bringing, between now and the 18th, would somebody on the select board be bringing a charter forward? Or are we going to say, like, we're gonna talk about it again in July and then somebody has to bring it forward after that? Is there any way we can get ahead of this? Because December 30th is the, this was my fear with the committee, is that's just we're gonna chew up a lot of time just creating a committee. So one way we could get ahead of this is if somebody wants to take a stab at a charge. How about the resident who brought it forward? I mean, or I don't know if anybody here wants to.
I don't know if we
He's
can
raising his
discuss.
hand.
I don't know if we can.
He just raised
I don't
his
think we
hand.
can, I would do it.
That's awesome. I
Having said that, I don't think we can discuss, like, we can't do any of that during future agendas, appoint someone to do all this stuff?
Right, I mean, I don't think we wanna appoint someone to do these things, but I do think it would be a good idea to have a draft charter, like we did for recalc, like we did for the recalc reset, within the past month or two. So is that, Fidel, is that something we can plan for July 18th? Okay.
We'll call Mr. Cool.
Carla.
Can I just address Karen's comment that I agree with?
You were volunteering.
That I agree with, note that for the record, that time is, you know, again, the grant is not the end all be all, but it's nice, right? Mr. Cool and other people are very passionate.
Yeah.
And last meeting, we talked about a citizen-led, resident-led kind of group that it sounded like, I'm not putting words in his mouth, that he was willing to take on.
Yeah.
To me, committee just means more staff time, more night meetings. Could be day meetings, right, depending on the composition, but I, you know, so I don't want, you know, I don't wanna have debate over this, but I remember last meeting, we discussed it at the last meeting, that the various iterations it could take, and that was one of them.
I think the issue is the deadline. We were going under whatever assumption, and it's like September or December now, which seems unrealistic anyway.
Like Karen said, we don't meet that much over the summer, and
Right.
and then that gives the new committee less time to meet,
Sure.
open meeting law, all this other stuff, so.
Well, and this is where I would hope that the residents who are most passionate about this, you know, organize and get active. I do think there's a role for us to play because we're talking about identifying town property, which, you know,
Correct.
we have a step in, and so does town meeting, but yeah, I agree that, and so, yeah, hopefully those who are most passionate can get organized quickly, so. Yes, Mark?
Could we set up an agenda item, doesn't need to be for July, but soon, kind of, to talk about the capital plan in general? We talked about creating a strategic planning committee, whatever it's to be called, master planning committee, and I think we talked about that being early next year. But there's stuff going on now, and we shouldn't just let it be whack-a-mole. We need to make sure, so, you know, $2.5 million in the capital plan, or $2 million, sorry, capital plan for Birch Meadow. How much is in for other things? Where do we wanna make sure our priorities are before we suddenly, you know, send everything to town meeting and then sit back and say, oh my God, we forgot about A and B completely. So maybe it's kind of previewing and talking through a little bit and just having some back and forth a little bit on capital.
Okay. Yes.
I'll add one to the distant future. I think, and maybe I missed it, because I didn't attend some of the joint RMLD meetings, but I think we should have another meeting by the end of the year to talk about that campus.
Yeah.
Over there, and I don't know if I missed that, that's already planned, but I think we should try to meet in September. The fall, to kind of see how much has changed from last year, if anything, the projections, or, you know, cause I think we're gonna need to do something over there. You know, not in months, but years, but I think it's gonna require a lot of planning and a lot of neighborhood input, and we're gonna do Station 1 still, that's lingering out there. Oh, do we have the environmental back from Station 1?
We do,
Alright, so never mind, that's good answer for now.
Separate item with RMLD also, we had a meeting, kind of Ice Arena Authority, RMLD, and ourselves. And there is supposed to be a follow-up, I think, for July, June, July. So I think we need to talk about what that is, and if it's a joint meeting, and going through. And I think topics related to what RMLD may be able to do to assist in operating costs, different kinds of activities. That's kind of where it germinated from. And I think they did a preliminary review that came back about, like, for example, solar was one of the pushes we did at the last meeting, and I think it came back favorably. It could.
The structure seemed
The structure,
favorable, yeah. So it was on the agenda the other night, but I didn't get to catch it. Do you want me to, Madam Chair, do you want me to take that as a follow-up?
Sure.
Alright, okay,
Yeah.
good date. Wow. Get that started.
Yeah, and I'd also, per our discussion on water and sewer rates, like to see sometime in September or October before we get too, deep into town meeting warrant, articles, a staff update on, how other communities, including Chelsea and others have worked on, low income, senior assistance, as well as, incentives for retrofitting and water efficiency. Yes.
Usually in September, we might ask our delegation to come and visit us. Is that a good time frame?
Ask their offices, yeah.
Okay.
Do you?
Well, you brought it up, I was gonna say, we gotta go over the water rate committee or come up with some
Well-
cool acronym for it, but yes, something whack around. I wanted it to be wet, but wet,
Exploratory.
wet, but I couldn't get water exploratory
Task force.
team,
Wet. Yeah.
Task
No,
force,
WETTTTF.
wetter,
Wetter.
WTF?
Oh, WT.
alright, I like that.
Water task force.
Water task force, the WT, alright, we got that. WTF.
I didn't start that one, so.
Okay, well, with that, we've got plenty
All
to
that for
keep
that,
us
Jen.
busy, all that for that. And so approve meeting minutes. I believe we have meeting minutes for May 23rd and June 6th.
Approved.
I don't know if anyone had any changes or edits to those.
I just have one that I noticed.
Oh, we almost made it.
But this is on, I mean, we can do the first one. The June 6th one is a quote is.
So
is
Caitlin,
made
could
on
you
it.
please pull up the June 6th minutes?
Thanks, Caitlin.
Sure.
You can guess where it'll be, but
We haven't approved minutes as written in my whole life.
I think that's incorrect, but.
So,
So yeah, it's on page 2 under water and sewer rates. The board is now unsure if tiers are the right way to go. They asked about a flat increase of 3%. That's me, and it was 2.9, 3, and 3.1. So in the middle. Unless other people.
I mean, we're trying to keep these very high level, like discussed
But
rates, so.
Haley asked.
I think it should be identified that it was you.
I was the one that brought it up, so.
So just change this to Haley asked.
Well, I don't think the board was unsure if tiered were the right way to go
Yeah.
in general. It was me
Okay.
that
What
was
would you like to say?
kind of what was already up there. Haley thought that tiers weren't Haley was unsure if tiers are the right way to go. He asked about a tiered increase of 2.9, 3, and 3.1. That's what I was saying.
Hmm.
2.9,
Of
3,
what?
and 3.1. A tiered increase of 2.9, 3.1, 2.9, 3, and 3.1.
Percent.
2.9, sorry, 2.9, comma, 3, comma, 3.1, and 3.1%.
And that's it.
One quick correction, I right under authorized debt, Caitlin, my last name is misspelled.
Oh, yep.
Switch the S and the K, thank you.
So is there a motion to approve the June 6, 2023 minutes, select board minutes as amended?
So moved.
Thanks, Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, we're 5-0. And going backwards to the May 23rd, 2023 Select Board minutes, does anyone have any changes, edits? Okay.
Motion to approve the May 23rd, 2023 minutes as written.
Thanks, Mark.
Second.
Thank you, Karen. All those in favor? Opposed, we're 5-0. I think that's it for tonight, so thank you very much, and we're,
Motion to adjourn?
oh, that's right, second. All right, all those in favor? Opposed, we're 5-0, now we're adjourned, thank you.